Hello and welcome to our next webinar session. Today we are very proud to have Apleona with us, which will show us some business cases for IoT in the context of facility management. We will have Hannah and Mark with us to explain you more in detail what does it mean using IoT solutions in their application environment, which is facility management. But let me just give you a short introduction to us. I'm switching on briefly my camera. So my name is Markus Florian. Here, that's me. I'm leading the sales team at Ocean. I'm based in Germany, Oberhaching, next to Munich. So I switch off my camera again to save some bandwidth. As mentioned, just allow me to give a few words to you on Ocean in case you don't know us. So Ocean, we are the leader in self-powered IoT solution based on energy harvesting principles. In this context, we ship components and modules and products to the market based on standardized wireless protocols. We are using, of course, in the sub-gigahertz range, the Ocean protocol, which we have developed over 20 years ago, but it's an open standard since over 10 years. And in that context, we are using frequencies like 868 megahertz for Europe, 902 for the US, Canada, or 928. And in recent years, we have also added support in our products for 2.4 gigahertz protocols. In this context, specifically, we have added support for Zigbee and Bluetooth Low Energy. In all these years, since we are active since 2003, we have shipped a double-digit million amount of products into the market. And these products are then integrated in solutions and products from our partners, and they are used in over 1 million buildings worldwide. So these are buildings ranging from big office buildings or hospitals down to also small private homes in the smart home context. We are active and present worldwide. Head office is based in Germany. We have, of course, a team around in Europe, but also we are based in North America and Far East. Our activities are supported by a strong and global patent portfolio. There's over 100 patents in over 50 patent families, which are then supporting our solution and R&D activities. So with this introduction, I'm very excited to hand over to Apleona, so specific to Hannah and Mark. So Hannah and Mark, over to you.
Thanks a lot. I really want to thank Ocean for this opportunity to hold a webinar on IoT and facility management. We will now also briefly turn on our camera so that you can see us and so that you know who you are dealing with. So basically, my name is Hannah Wegerich, and together with my colleague Mark Fitzpatrick, we will guide you through the presentation today. Mark is the head of product and based in Geneva in Switzerland, and I'm a solution manager based in Berlin. We both work in Apleona Central Digitalization Department together for our Chief Digitalization Officer. And we will now switch off our cameras again so that you can see the slides in full size. So, all right. So, to start the presentation, today we want to take a closer look at the topic of business cases for IoT and facility management. And the business case is crucial for decision making and is therefore usually developed at the beginning of an IoT project. And before we jump directly into the topic, I would like to briefly introduce Apleona for all of those who do not know Apleona yet. So Apleona is one of the 3 major FM providers in Europe and market leader in the DACH region. We deliver integrated facility management, real estate management, but we're also doing interior fit outs and building technology services to our clients. And we do this with more than 20,000 employees in more than 30 countries. We are in discussion with many of our customers regarding IoT projects and have implemented some of them together with our clients, for example, with IBM And I will show you later some examples of how IoT is used at our customers. So, but to get into our actual topic, I would like to talk about the impediments that have existed in the past when it came to implementing IoT projects. So first of all, I have to mention here that the costs for sensor technology were relatively high in the past. This has luckily changed. Moreover, many companies, products, and also protocols have been emerged in the field of IoT. However, it was really difficult to determine who would survive actually. Yeah. So there was let's say, a kind of technology and standard risk in the past. At the same time, you needed to choose a specialized solution or a specialized provider. And there were only a few, let's say, general and wide-ranging applications available. And the last point I would like to mention here is the so-called agency problem. In many cases, the company that would make the investment is not the one that will get the return on it. And nobody wants to take the risk. So the contract model did not really fit to IoT plans. But luckily, the picture is changing. And I would now like to briefly explain why we think that we as an FM provider are now in the right position to implement digitalization and IoT projects. So why is now the time? On the one hand, our customers demand innovations and digital solutions. And this has now become really an important part of basically all tenders and especially, of course, international tenders. So in addition, as operators of buildings, especially office buildings, we are increasingly being asked about concepts for a modern and digital workplace. The second point is the availability of the necessary technologies. Today, there's a wide range of standardized sensors that can be used in the building environment to measure, for example, the status of equipment or indicate the occupancy of rooms, for example. In addition to that, cloud technologies allow companies now to scale from zero, which is really an advantage. And in addition, there's a data analytics software available which can exploit the data coming from IoT. And last point here, there are many PropTech companies that have been or that have developed interesting software and services for the digital workplace and other IoT-based use cases that we can use. The third and equally important reason is that we are really in a good position to take care of the digital solution or the hardware or software used in a building, because we, or in general, FM providers are on site. The staff is on site. The facility managers know the problems in the building, and they can replace defective sensors, for example. And I think this puts us or facility managers in a good position compared to PropTechs. And of course, with our large customers, we are able to scale, and moreover, there's more and more data available in the buildings, from the buildings, which can be used together with the IoT data for multiple use cases. So in this respect, we believe we can now add value to IoT projects as a service provider. We would like now to ask you, or we would like to make some kind of survey, and would now like to ask you what obstacles you still see today that prevent IoT projects. That would be really interesting to us. So please, look at the question and the answers and choose. You can choose more than one answer. So the question is, which of these impediments are you most concerned with for your facilities? Is it standards, technologies, life cycles? Is it, for example, the workers' council approval and privacy concerns? Do you think IoT approval and support and security concerns are biggest impediments right now? Or budget constraints, investment risk for the application, or uncertainty about workplace strategy? Yeah, please select your answers. As I said, you can select multiple answers. So yeah, we wait another few seconds. I see already a lot of you already answered. Just wait. We will close the poll in 10 seconds. That looks interesting. All right, another 5 seconds. And we will close the survey now. Thanks a lot for your votes. Here you can see now the result of it. Quite interesting. Of course, the overall number is not 100% because you had multiple choices. Yeah, Mark?
The result is a surprise for me because I really would have thought that works councils and privacy concerns would end up being the #1 impediment. And I kind of thought that standards and technology lifecycle risks were less of an issue, but the audience have voted. Notice it also connects tightly to the idea of budget constraints and investment risk. Because if you have short life cycles, that means you need to have fast paybacks. And of course, that raises constraints around investment and budget.
Yeah, so really quite interesting. But let's move on with the IoT applications in FM and finding the right business case. At this point, I would like to hand over to my colleague, Mark.
Very good. Thank you, Hannah. I'll start off just by looking at our context. What is facilities management? And then we're going to apply IoT to that. So this is going to form the basis of how we normally would create business cases for Internet of Things. So let's start at the bottom. Facilities management, as you may or may not know, primarily consists of what we call hard FM services, such as the maintenance of HVAC or heating, ventilation, air conditioning, plumbing systems, power systems. It also includes soft FM services. That would be your cleaning, reception, security. And we deliver this through a model, as Hannah said, which is called an integrated facilities management model. So we're really an outsourcer. We go to our customers and we take over these responsibilities. And the primary thing that we deliver, the primary value they seek, is in the upper right, left-hand corner. That's cost control and cost reduction. That's what customers want. And because we're an outsourcer, what comes with that is that they need transparency and simplicity. So we need to be an extension of their own organization and give them the same level of transparency they had when they managed everything themselves. Also, customers can never let go of their accountability for compliance. So we make sure that they remain compliant within the law, within regulations, and we use standardization to deliver that. What's happened is that probably over the last 10 years, is that FM has started to have an extended scope. So one of the big extensions has been on energy and sustainability, and we continue to see growth in that domain, especially more so around sustainability than energy itself, because energy costs are still relatively low in the world, but sustainability is becoming more important. The next big domain is that more and more customers are focused on workplace experience. So it's not just delivering your FM services as they are as individualized services, but repackaging them and bringing together things such as we'll do space management, we'll do meeting room management, and that becomes a part of our portfolio. So we have a suite of services that are simply focused on the workplace. Now, if we look at how this is operated before, of course, it used a lot of data, but what IoT does is it generates the possibility for new data sets that are collected continuously. They don't need humans going around and capturing the data. We have sensors that can deliver it in real time and can keep good historical logs. But then the data need to go somewhere. So now what we introduce is what are the IoT applications? And so here's a list of about 12, but there are really many more, and we've kind of grouped them then into each one of the verticals, although some of them touch multiple verticals. But you probably heard quite a lot about predictive maintenance. So instead of sending a technician to go in and take a measurement around the condition of an asset, we can have continual monitoring of that condition, and then we can reschedule preventative maintenance based on the actual condition of the asset, and that extends the asset life and reduces maintenance costs. In soft services, you've probably seen that you can have soap dispensers that tell you when they're about to run empty, so you can do consumables management in a more efficient way. Obviously, then there are lots of cases around energy management when you can sense everything around the building, and you can get predictive measures around energy. In the domain of workplace, we now can integrate sensors into the workplace experience. So workplace booking can be changed using sensors, and the sensors also are delivering a lot of information about how the facility is used, so you can end up with more perspectives on space optimization. Now, if we were to take any one of these and try to drive it into a business case, why don't we take occupancy? And we believe this approach makes more sense. So what we're saying is see all the possibilities, create a big vision, and then start with something that you believe is most likely to be successful. So here you can see that occupancy really drives 3 use cases. And what we'll do is we'll next take that into a business case and show what the likely results are going to be using a real building. So first of all, let's look at demand-driven cleaning. So the concept here is that look at what people have actually used and only clean that, okay? And the expected result is that you're going to be able to reduce your crew size, you're going to be able to reduce the number of hours worked, and possibly reduce some energy and consumables. But there are impediments, and the first impediment is the agency issue that Hannah brought up. You may have an existing contract that may not let you capture the benefits, or it could be that the one who makes the investment is not the one who takes the benefit. Another impediment is that there might be health and safety requirements that simply don't allow you to make some cleaning reductions, whether or not the space was used. And then finally, we have to consider that, look, cleaning is usually the number one, the biggest line in facilities management in terms of cost, but it is also built using some of the lowest labor costs in the market. And there are also scale issues. If you have a cleaning crew with only 3 people, you have to make at least 33% savings in order to realize or to turn that into cash. Now, if we look on the right-hand side and look at workplace experience, the occupancy sensors are not detecting occupancy, they're detecting availability. And then what you're able to do is you're able to use apps to then communicate and deliver availability to the occupants. And the result is that you get a happier workforce, improved productivity. It's easier to attract and retain talent to a workplace that makes everything that simple. Also, the data that you collect is driving insights around your space management, and it can drive efficiency. You can probably put more people into the same building, or you could possibly then have less building and make cash savings as well as CO2 savings. But the impediments here are privacy and works councils, because the IoT cannot be used in any way as some kind of tracking mechanisms. Also then, it can be difficult to translate this into hard savings until you have a lease break opportunity. So if you still have 5 years left on your lease and you find that you can reduce the space in the building, it's going to be a long wait before you'll see payback. So now let's take these 2 cases and put them into a real building. And so on the next slide, we'll look at, this is a real building from one of our customers. It's 20,000 square meters. It has about 800 seats. So it gives you a pretty good benchmark. Now, if we were to deploy IoT purely for occupancy in this building, we've estimated that the cost would be around 60,000 euros up front, including gateways, sensors, and but probably fairly light project cost. We're assuming that you'd not have to do any kind of retrofit of wiring or power. We think that when you load in all of the cost of the software that would leverage this for the 2 applications that we've listed, you'd probably spend around 36,000 a year to maintain that network and then deliver the software applications. We're going to use a 2-year payback on this because we're going to be really conservative and say, look, it's a technology investment. Probably we're going to assume the CFO wants 3-year life to that, so let's get our money back in 2 years. Now, in this building, the cleaning cost would probably be about 250,000 a year, lots of dependencies, and depending on the company, it might be around 750 employees. So if you do the math on these 2 cases, you can see that demand-driven cleaning would have to have a minimum reduction of 26% of the cleaning cost. And that's a fairly risky bet, because that 250,000 is probably a cleaning crew of 5 people. So you have to at least be able to let go one person, and then you have to go a bit further. So it's not a guaranteed win without having some data to prove that it's a guaranteed win. Then the workplace experience, however, looks more promising. If you took 2 years to pay it back, that works out to 88 euros per employee per year. And somehow that seems a more plausible argument, especially when you're trying to leverage employee productivity. It really depends on the financial criteria of your company. So if we take that into consideration, it would look like workplace experience is really the right place to start for an IoT investment in building a business case. So Hannah, can you walk us through what does workplace experience look like with IoT?
Exactly. Thank you, Mark. So yeah, as Mark just explained, we first focus on workplace experience. And what did we do here? With the help of design thinking workshops and various experts, we first identified all the touch points of office workers and build a solution around that makes the daily working life of these employees easier. So there's now a workplace app for our customers. And in this workplace app, employees can, for example, view all relevant information about the workplace, like opening hours, news, contact details of service staff, and so on. And for many of the use cases or the identified use cases, IoT is needed. So if we now jump into our first example, which is desk booking. This is a very well-known use case, I would say. Employees can use sensor data to see which and how many workstations are still free. And via the mobile app, they can not only view them, but also book them. Yeah. And for the implementation, we used here an Ocean underdesk sensors, as you can see on the picture. Our next implemented use case is about responsive room booking. The idea behind this is quite simple. In addition to the usually available and rather large meeting rooms, which are often below their maximum capacity when in use and are often overbooked, there are additional smaller rooms. You can call them huddle rooms, think tanks, or quiet rooms. And these rooms are rather used for activities such as telephone calls or spontaneous face-to-face meetings. And to make the availability of these rooms visible and shorten the search time, we use occupancy sensors from an Ocean on the ceiling. And using the app or tablets which are in the entrance area of the building, employees can see which rooms are currently available. If they reserve a room, they have 15 minutes to occupy the room. Otherwise, it will be released for other employees again. And the result of this use case was quite impressive. Just by increasing the transparency and thus reducing the so-called search costs, an increase in room utilization of over 31% could be observed for a period of about, I think it was 3 months, compared to the same period of the previous year, and with the similar number of visitors. And in addition, the satisfaction increased as there's less frustration regarding finding a quiet place in the office. The last use case I want to show you today is called napping power. For this purpose, we have built a relaxation area into the office of our customer IBM and 2 offices of IBM. Employees will find cabins there for relaxation, and the occupancy of a cabin is measured here by an Ocean thermal sensor. And there's also digital signage which shows from the outside of the cabin whether the cabin is occupied. And here again, the employees can reserve a cabin via the app. The app can also play various audio sessions, such as meditation exercises and autogenic training and so on. And you see the overall goal of this application, of course, is that employees are able to recharge their batteries with the help of a short power nap and start working productively again afterwards. And we have really noticed that employees appreciate the possibility of power naps, especially, of course, after the lunchtime when they have some kind of food coma, or how you would call it. So as you can see, there are many, many different ways to use IoT to increase the workplace experience. And I would like now to hand over to my colleague Mark again to talk about the business case again.
Very good, thanks, Hannah. So in this case, we believe we can produce good value out of the workplace experience and possibly space optimization. And the important point here is that by focusing on the one that is the most viable, you come up with a business case that essentially pays for your core infrastructure. And that makes the next business case easier to write. So the marginal case becomes easier. And the reason that that's all possible is because you start with a big vision and you choose the best starting point, and that will guarantee a pathway to success. But we have to be careful that we don't box ourselves in. There are lots of solutions on the market, and some of them are using proprietary solutions, proprietary protocols. They're highly vertical. It's like solution in a box. But if you deployed a solution in a box for workplace experience, then you may be able to get the cleaning on demand as a benefit, but you may not get the energy, you may not get predictive maintenance, consumables. What's happening then is that it becomes harder and harder to add those smaller cases to your vision. One of the comments made already is, I think exactly to this point, that in our survey, we did not really discuss the fact that there's a lack of a plan, but the plan is actually the key component to making the project a success. So let's move to our next survey. And so we'll go ahead and open this survey. The survey is, which IoT applications are the most promising for your facilities? Again, you can select all that apply, focusing in on perhaps the ones that you believe are the most viable. Workplace analytics and space optimization, workplace experience and well-being, demand-driven cleaning and consumables management, energy management, sustainability management and reporting, and predictive maintenance and remote monitoring. So we'll give another minute here. The results are starting to come in.
So we wait another 10 seconds.
Yeah, I think so. The results are taking a shape, and it's interesting.
Yeah, really interesting. Okay, another 5 seconds. It's changing a lot.
Yeah, it's like watching a horse race.
Exactly. All right, I think we stop here.
Okay, so it again, one that I did not necessarily think was going to be a winner. Energy management and sustainability reporting is coming out to be the leader. Watching them though, they were all moving at different points. Each one seemed to be come out to be the winner. In our own experience, we've done a lot of work with energy management with the idea that you can drive down your energy cost. You can also not only improve your sustainability and reduce your carbon footprint, but you can report on it. And there is increasing regulation that is requiring this kind of reporting. So it would sound like that would be, in fact, a very viable business case and one that you could turn into cash. Returns might not be that high from what we've seen, simply because energy costs are relatively low. But if you're able to couple it together with sustainability reporting, then you probably have a winning business case. And another funny one here is that workplace analytics and space optimization somehow connects to that. If you have people using less space, then you have massively reduced your carbon footprint and your energy consumption at the same time. So,
all right, so let's end the poll. Exactly. Okay.
So now one final point. When we talk about creating a big vision, we've focused very much now on IoT, and we've looked at the use cases, and the use cases are larger than the ones that we've listed. But we have to include in that big picture what kind of data you're collecting and how do you mix it with other data. IoT data are important, but they're much more valuable when you can mix it together. If you're looking at occupancy or meeting room experience, well, you should be mixing it with meeting room data, for example. So you need to think about what's my hot data, what's the data that I need to have real-time response on, and what's my cold data, what's the data that I'm going to be using for analytics. So in creating that vision, you also have to think about data in general and what is your total data ecosphere and how do you connect it all together. Very good then. So shall we close here and open for questions?
Exactly. So if you have any questions, please just use the question feature here in the webinar and we try to answer. I know it's already 1 minute over the time. Here's an interesting question. Maybe I just read out this. Do your customers tend to take a side-by-side approach or an enterprise-wide focus in their IoT applications?
Oh, that's it's a good question. It's and like a lot of questions, has an it depends answer. The most mature customers who've been thinking about this for a while have already started some experiments, and then they know what works. They take those cases and they try to extend them to the entire portfolio. They try to go really global with it. The customers who are in the more experimental phase tend to go site by site. Also, some of our customers have such unique sites, unique situations, that they tend to always stay site by site. I see another question here. Do your customers pay for IoT solutions? That's a really good question because it opens up the agency issue. For us as a facilities management provider, normally we see that the IoT sensors and investments should be taken by the customer and should be the capital investments of the fixtures of the customer. That's not absolutely fixed. We can come up with financial arrangements that make more sense. But generally the customers pay for the IoT solutions and they actually embed them inside of their workplace and they become their customers' assets.
All right, super. So as we are already 2 minutes or 3 minutes over the time, I would hand over to Markus again.
Yeah, okay, great. No, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the presentation, Hannah and Mark. I think you have been able to really show us some very good insights into the challenges you are facing in facility management. So I think there is a lot of good input you have provided. We, of course, continue with our webinar series. You already see here an outlook to the next webinar we have planned for January. It's the 20th of January, where we then partner with IO Connect, talking about smart spaces and IoT. So again, we continue doing our webinar series based on applications, real uses of IoT technology in the context of real applications. And turning on to the last page, of course, there you will see the contact details of Hannah and Mark. So of course, if you have further questions, then please approach them. If you have questions on our technology, then please contact me. We will also then, should there be any additional questions coming in via the chat functions, of course, we'll collect those as well and reply back. And then there's nothing else left for me to say thank you. Thank you to Mark and Hannah for the great presentation, and thank you for the audience to listen to us. And then we look forward to hearing you, seeing you in the next webinar session. Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone. Thanks a lot.